Good. Hello, everyone. Hi, everyone. I'm very happy to see you here this morning, and it's actually amazing to start the week this way. So thank you for letting me doing it and joining. We will study today the rules of Bishul Shabbat. Now, there's no chance in the world that you can really study the rules, laws of Bishul Shabbat in one shiur. I'm not going to manage to cover the high principles and some low practical aspects. All the discussion are usually in between. Sources we use regarding what's permitted and other. I hope some already know, like Yad Soledet and Kli Rishon and Kli Sheni. Everyone agrees on the source where it comes from, but how it implies, this is what is under the discussion, and you have so many books and things that were written about it that there's no chance in the world to cover them all. But there are principles that are actually simple in the bottom line, like how to follow, how to do, and work in your Shabbat. Not working, of course. How to apply these principles. That's actually quite simple if you stick to the guideline that we'll give today. But there are lots of gray area that are the things that we won't be able to cover complete. But let's start straight into it. I hope all of you read the chapter that we need to write, and we need to study, and we will start from the very principle of what is considered bishul. Now, a very important aspect that I know you've seen in the also other places is that when we talk about bishul is the word of cooking. When we speak about cooking, it doesn't mean standing with a pot on fire. It means every way that you bring something that is not ready to heat in a higher temperature. And that's a discussion the exact temperature. But so cooking, if you can be very creative and find a new way of cooking, for example, today we cook with some microwaves, right? That is not the rabbis in Talmud didn't know that you can cook something with a wave of heat, which is a very weird. Actually, until today, I don't really understand how a microwave really works. But this is definitely something that the rabbi didn't know. Both this is also cooking. Like cooking is not only the traditional way of cooking. Cooking is the question of bringing something to the great. But cooking is, even though still something that is permitted in different ways, but just not cooking. Sorry, heating will be allowed, but we will talk about the thing that how is it allowed? Because very important, even though cooking can be complicated, it doesn't mean that you should eat cold meat, cold food on Shabbat. In the Denmark, there was a tradition to eat always cold food Shabbat afternoon. My grandparents, we always had cold chicken and cold meat, and that was how they ate. And it's a weird It's something that I couldn't really get used to. I know that Danes do it in general, so it wasn't seen as something that you don't do. So that's why they did it. It wasn't something weird. But for the Israelis who came, who never heard of the option of eating cold chicken, like cutting in that's unheard of in it, less fancy, right? That we supposed to respect the Shabbat and have we shouldn't feel that the Shabbat dinner is a compromise. Oh, it should be the best food we can have in the best way. What we will start with. I'm breaking up.
Yeah,
Is there a problem with hearing me?
There's a problem with the connection. It keeps like breaking up all the time.
Mine or yours? Is it some other?
I think it's yours.
I think it's yours.
I think it's yours, yeah.
Really?
It's yours.
Good. So I really don't know what I can do about it. Yeah, I really don't know.
You have a text that says that Jair Melchior's network is bandwidth is low. I don't know what that means.
Okay, so make it help. I hope it won't take.
Sometimes it's faster to use the internet through the phone.
Yeah, I just did that. I went over to the phone. Is it better?
Seems better.
Good. So we'll try like this. I can at least hear you well, so that's good. That's good too. No, it's okay. So I'll try to continue and tell me if there's a problem. Everything fine now?
It's much better now, yeah.
Great. So I'll continue. So I will share the document. Did you understand what I said before? Like more or less the introduction.
We heard most of it. So.
Good.
Yeah.
Good. So we start from here in the a very big principle that is very important to understand when you regard Bishul on Shabbat is this the word of Chom Shayad Soledet Bo, a heat that the hand a heat that the hand retract from. Yes, in the Yerushalmit, I got help here from my wife. She's English-speaking at home. Now, in the Yerushalmi, it's a different source, but I won't go into all that details. But let's see what is a principal aspect of that. The sages taught one may bring a jug of water full of water and place it opposite the bonfire. Not so that the water will heat up, as it is prohibited to cook on Shabbat, rather to temper the cold. So the example here is that you can bring something close to the bonfire to temper the cold. It's fine to let it be a bit warmer because it was very cold, and if you need to, for some reason, so you are allowed to temper, not to make it warm. Rabbi Yehuda says, a woman may take a cruse of oil and place it opposite the bonfire, not so the oil will cook, rather so it will warm until it is lukewarm. Okay, so we can see here a principal idea of that you can heat something a bit, not directly on the fire, but next to the fire, and not to make it warm, just make it, help me here, the loon, right? Loon.
loon.
In Danish, how do you say it? Huh?
Yeah, loon is Danish, right?
Yeah, loon.
Ljummen, halvvarm.
Yeah. Half, let's say half, to make it bearable. Okay, it's nice, but not
lukewarm in English.
Yeah, lukewarm. Yeah, like the word it says it. So lukewarm, but not hot. That it's a very important distinction. Then, Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel says, a woman may smear her hand with oil and heat it opposite the fire, and after the word, smear her young son. So that it's like you can take some of the oil on your hand, put it close to the fire, and then put it on your child. So it's you can theoretically understand the example until today with when we need to put things on children and such, that definitely happen. So you can see different ways of heating, but not too much. Okay, and then they come to the rule. I run down to the conclusion in the same page in the Talmud Shabbat. Rav Yehuda said, in the name of Shmuel, both oil and water. Then they only say, it's very typical the way the Talmud said, you don't explain the sentence, you just say the rule. Chom sheyad soledet bo, hand recoils from it is prohibited. Hand does not recoil from it is permitted. So if the heat, if it's too hot for the hand to put in, then it became too hot. But if it's less, then it's fine. So we have here it's not for some reason they didn't mention in the Talmud the exact degree, how hot it should be. Maybe because they didn't know of the degree scale. That might be an option, but rabbis, I thought, knew everything. So the sentence they used is Chom sheyad soledet. Now we will see that immediately this is something that will be up to debate later. What is this heat exactly? Because it's not something that is clear, they can say for everyone. And already in the Talmud, they understand that there's a difference, because you have people who can stick their hands in hot water, and of course there are people that don't have any senses. But let's say people do have senses. We talk about chefs' hands, right? Chefs, they're used to working with hot, so they'll put their hand into hot water in a way that regular people can't. And then there's a scale, so people don't have the exact same place where is water too hot. Even here, there's actually a discussion among rabbis if it's supposed to be thing that the hand can't touch, like really boiling water, or that you can't put your hand too long in it because it will be too warm for the hand. That will be a discussion that already goes into somewhere between. You'll see the options, but when we talk about boiling, like very something that you won't even you will immediately back off. That will be around 70 degrees today, which is quite hot. While when we talk about Chom Shiad Soledet, which is not boiling, not hot, will be somewhere between 40 and 50 degrees. These are the different opinions. But the Gemara says, and that helps us to understand maybe the Talmud, because of the differences between people, they say that and what are the circumstances a hand recoils from it? They also want a more clear definition. Then they go to a baby, because a baby isn't affected by the thing he worked with during the time. So what is the heat? Rachava said, this is a Rabbi, the Amora from the Talmud, any water, a baby's stomach will be scalded. So if you put it on a baby's stomach, which is quite sensitive, if you put it on a baby's stomach and it would turn a bit red, that's too hot. Again, that is usually something that is right for all the babies, more or less. So that is, I don't ask me how they did the. I don't think they tried it on babies. Okay, I really believe it's just something that happened, so everyone knows, without doing experiments on babies how hot they should experience it. But it's more like. I really think that it's more like every parent knows from washing baby that you try to put hot water and you know, oh no, that was too hot. So it's something. Yes, Helena and Lior, you need to learn this. Find out exact temperature. And if you don't know Helena, I hope she wouldn't be here today, because she was due last week. So. Batzlacha. But but anyways, that is something that is more clear and is used later. You can see that there were discussions the last 100 years where people used the more exact measurements, 150 years, and I found like different in the Shut Bnei Banim. It's a shoot sponsor of Rabbi Henkin. It's one of the important modern Orthodox rabbis of the last century, and he then gathered the different opinions of Achronim, of the Achronim or Achrone Achronim, the last poskim, the last people who were written different halachic responsa. So he brings from the lowest temperature. Kitzur Shulchan Aruch says 40 degrees. So already in 40 degrees, it's Chom Shiyad Soledet. And then you go up to Reb Moshe Feinstein. Let's see if Reb Moshe Feinstein, he was the all these places. Actually, these people, it's actually nice for you to see them, because these are the most important names of the start of the 19th century, of the most important poskim. These are the ones that everyone follows today. Reb Moshe Feinstein, Aaron Kotler, Shlomo Zalman Auerbach, and Rabbi Tzvi Pesach Frank. So actually, good names to know, because these are the ones that we go to today when we try to find out the more modern issues. So you can see here 40, 42, 49, 45, 50, different levels. it gives you a picture. The basic idea is also that Chomshi Yad Soledet is something you should be careful with. So if you're not sure, then take it a bit less. Okay, so whatever you think is not sure, it's a bit less. But it's also something that you're not supposed to really come to a situation, because there are different ways to heat it in a way that will be allowed, and do that. So you don't need to start on Shabbat standing with a thermometer to find out exactly the heat of anything. First of all, because you're not allowed to use the thermometer to measure on Shabbat. So that's the one. So this won't be relevant. And also, you're not supposed to be in a situation that you need to check how hot it will become or not, because you're supposed to heat in the ways that are allowed. Okay, so this is the reason I teach you this is not because it's critical to know the exact detail, but to understand the principle. The principle that is that you shouldn't come to Chomshi Yad Soledet in heat. Yes.
Yeah.
Then,
Sorry,
yeah.
One question. Sorry. Silke is waiting in the queue. Can you admit her to the meeting?
Ah, yes.
She just called me.
But I don't see a. Are you sure?
Yeah, she said.
Stop share. No, but she's not in the list of the. She's not in the queue. Maybe she's in the wrong.
Maybe. Okay, I sent her.
She's
the
in the
new
wrong
link.
link. Send her the right link.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, Cecilia.
I'm asking, so you can put on the stove and put on the kettle there that you get the heat to 40 degrees?
No, because you're not allowed to put something that might be able to go higher up. So you don't start something that can then it's exactly not about that. The melachav, like first of all, putting something on the fire won't be allowed. It won't be allowed, but you don't put something that might go up to the wrong temperature. That is the critical. So it's not. This is what I mean. I mean, you can't like start putting something on and just do it until it comes to that heat. But this is the heat you're supposed to. But if something, for example, let's say this is something that is not allowed to. I don't know. You want to drink milk, or put milk in your coffee, and you don't want the milk to be cold from some reason, where you prefer to have it in like a room temperature. You can't take the milk and put it on the plata, because this will go. It will turn into a temperature that will be more than the 45. But if you put the milk next to the plata, in a place that it will get some of the heat of the plata, but there's no chance. So the rule here will be it won't be able to go above. It there will be no way that it can go over the heat of Yad Soledet. It won't be able to come to that. But then it will be allowed. That's why this 45, more or less 45 degrees is relevant, because this is something that you can do in in such situations. So you can heat something in a way that it won't be able to go over a specific temperature. So in that way it will be allowed, and this number will be relevant. But other than that, it's not something that you need to know, because you need to be careful that it won't be something that can go over. Not only that it goes over, but can go over. Then it's already not allowed.
Okay, thank you.
Good. So, and please just ask, because I don't see all the messages. So if you have a question, just come out and ask. Good. So now, there's one principle. Chom sheyad soledet. Try to remember the words. Chom sheyad soledet, the heat that the hand retracts from. Now we come to a different rule that is very important. Ein bishul achar bishul. You can't cook something that is already cooked. It's a very important rule. Because it means that something that is already cooked, it's not considered a cooking. There might be other options, but this is a very important aspect. So you can heat something that was cooked before. So everything we talked about until now is heating or bishul of something that is not cooked, that is not made. It's like taking whatever you want to make. If you put something that is raw and want it to heat, this is bishul. But if something was cooked before, there's no cooking after cooking. This is the principle. It comes from the Mishnah. It might be a bit. This is the source where it starts. But again, I don't want to go into small details of it. I will just read it quickly. Any salted food, salted means prepared, that was already placed in hot water, cooked before Shabbat, one may soak it in hot water, even on Shabbat. And anything that was not placed in hot water before Shabbat, one may rinse it in hot water on Shabbat, but may not soak it, with exceptions of old salted fish and small salted fish, and kolyas haispanim. It's a specific kind of a fish for which rinsing with hot water itself is completion of the prohibited labor of cooking. So in general, we have here a different thing, but the principal idea is when something was already placed in the hot water, so it was cooked in the hot water. They talk about different options. For example, fish that you're supposed to cook, or any other thing. If it was cooked before Shabbat, then you're also allowed to put it in Shabbat. Yes, Rebecca?
Does that mean, so say you have a platter and you already have food on this platter and you don't have enough room, but you already have a cooked stew in the fridge, does that mean you could take out that pot and put it on the platter later on?
Well, I'll give you many, the stew will give you some other problem that we'll talk about. But let's count. I want to go through the principles, and then we'll come to the practice at the end to be able to say one thing is where the principles are. Then how do we do heat things on Shabbat, things that might be necessary. Okay, so I'll wait with that because there's another rule that comes through when we come to stew.
Okay.
But a principle idea that we'll learn from here, just take it as granted. There's no cooking after cooking. Now, the big question is, what is something that is cooked? Of course, whenever I say I start a sentence, then there's something that stands behind when you say there's no cooking after cooking, but what is considered full cooking. Because people, as you know, when you come to eating steaks, the first thing that a waiter asks you when you order your steak is, how do you want it? Do you want it rare or do you want it well done? I have a rule that even though I'm vegetarian, anyone who eats something well done is not permitted to come to my house, because they're ruining. They're like, you're not allowed to murder the animal twice. But this is from the time that I used to like meat. But the idea is that yes, people eat in different ways. People don't. So what's considered cooked for one is not considered cooked for another. For example, these temperatures that this temperature that we just talked about. There is a very famous. There are, I know in Copenhagen, there are also other places, restaurants that are called raw, and the idea that they serve something that is not allowed to be cooked in more than I don't remember the exact, but like more than 40 degrees or something like that. So they cook it in a very, very light heat, then it's still considered raw. So we can see that these can even be seen as a delicatesse that you pay a lot of money for, even though it's not completely fully cooked in regular sense that people would say. So what is cooked is a question. Now we start with the most extreme, what we would call a raw thing, is known to be ma'achal ben drosai. Ma'achal ben drosai, there's a discussion in the Talmud. I'm not sure if you know what. The discussion said it comes in the start of Talmud Shabbat. How much do they need to be roasted in order to be considered sufficient? So it will be permitted to complete the cooking afterwards. Because you're supposed to, when you, just before Shabbat, everything needs to be cooked. But sometimes you have to remember that in the past, you put it on a fire that continued also during Shabbat. So if you started the cooking before Shabbat, it needed to be at least cooked in a minimum, so you can continue, so the heating could be continued during Shabbat. And that was the discussion. And what was that? Rabbi Elazar said in the name of Rav, so that they will be roasted while it is still day, like the food of Ben Drosai. Everyone knew he was maybe Ben Drosai, maybe was like the this raw 40, or I don't know. Everyone knew Ma'achal ben Drosai, that he ate raw steaks. That was like the very, very basic level, and that is a minimum considered to be to argument that something is cooked. Usually, it's not accepted. Like you say, no, it needs to be more cooked, more than Ma'achal ben Drosai. It's not enough at the minimum, but it's used sometimes halachically to discuss, and it's also relevant in other rules of cooking. For example, here we have like the cooking of Gentiles, a discussion. But for us, it's important to know this is also a phrase that you can meet when you talk about cooking on Shabbat, Ma'achal ben Drosai, that is like at least cooked in that level. Okay, so we said the first rule, Yad Soledet. The other one, Ein Bishul Achar Bishul. Yad Soledet, the retracting hand. Ein Bishul Achar Bishul, no cooking after cooking. Good. Yeah, I brought you Pnei Halacha to make this more clear. Maybe someone here wants to read it to complete the. Yes. Rebecca, do you want to read?
Yeah, I could do.
Thank you.
I just have a small screen, so.
So then maybe we should ask someone else.
I can do it.
Great, thank
here.
you.
We have already learned that there's no prohibition of cooking something that has already been cooked. Therefore, one may reheat cooked food on Shabbat. For example, one may remove cooked fish or fried schnitzel from the refrigerator and reheat them to Yad Soledet bowl, as long as it does not resemble cooking. But there is a fundamental.
Okay, so it's allowed to reheat them even to the level of that is not permitted, because it was already cooked, it was already made. Yeah, as long as it's not resembled cooking. That is a very important aspect. For example, sometimes you might use a stove, like a mechanical stove, to here as a plata. Many of those who are like the old kind of what's called I think that's like the wow, I forgot the name. What do you put today? We use gas, but if you don't have gas, you use stove, right? And then you have like you have like electric stove, and it's the old one used to be that it goes to a specific heat and doesn't change. Today you have those who change and go up and down and have like a measure. But the old ones are very simple. And in some, for example, in our community center, sometimes you can just use the stove as a plata because you can put it in a specific heat and it doesn't change. It stays the same heat the whole time. But then, for example, if I'll use that one, I stand next to the stove and I put no machvat.
You mean metal foil?
I think it's
No,
called
not metal foil.
induction. I think it's called induction.
Uh-huh.
There's induction ones, and you press the 1, and then it will always remain 1. Or you can press 9, or you can press power. Is that what you mean? That the stove?
No,
has
but
an
the old
induction?
ones are those who went. Induction is the newer one. The
It's-
induction is what you have today. The changes but in the past you just had like the electro. You could also buy one to take out. People used to take it as
Yeah. There is no
heating.
thermostat in it. It's not thermostat.
Exactly.
It's just one. And then there are these with thermostat, and then the third generation is the induction. But you talk about the
So
first
the
generation.
very oldest one, the first one. No, but what I said now, that if you use a machvat, what the word is machvat?
Pan?
A pan, right? Sorry. So if you use this one and you take a pan and put a schnitzel on it, it looks like you cook, right? So you're allowed to heat the schnitzel. I'm allowed to use this one in the community center. That this heating system. But if I'll take a pan and put a schnitzel on it, whoever goes in will think I'm cooking. So that's why you say in a way that it doesn't resemble cooking. So I can put the same schnitzel on a tin foil, and put it in the same, then there's no problem. Okay, so it's important there's a difference.
Can I just for understand, because when you are on Shabbos dinner in Israel, they have this old stove, and it's always metal foil on. Is this because of it should not be in direct contact with the thing, or is it because they don't want to have problems with the parts of milk and meat, or why?
So the foil is because there's a discussion of the plata. Is it considered directly on the fire, or the first layer is a distinguish? So there's a discussion, and so that's why some people also put a foil, and some people would put a lid of or another pan or something, and then put something above it to create a distance to make sure that it's not directly on the fire. But that's a debate, and you can have a different opinion there. Anyways, when you come back here, so you can heat this schnitzel, but just put it in the foil and not in a way that looks like you're cooking. Okay, that's a principle. Good. Yes. Continue, Silke.
Yeah. But there is a fundamental disagreement among the Rishonim whether this principle applies to liquids, while soaps and sauces. Soups and sauces. I'm sorry. For this purpose, a liquid is something that, if left in a bowl, would spread out evenly. If it retains its shape, it is considered a solid. According to Rambam, Rasha, and Ran, the principle of ein bishul aha bishul applies to cooked soup as well. Therefore, based on their opinion, one may take soup from the refrigerator on Shabbos and heat it, as long as it does not look like he is cooking.
Yes. Okay, so you can see here that according to many very important rabbis, Rishonim, Rambam, Rashba, Ran, you remember Rambam, right? Rashba, I don't think you remember Bishlam Ben Aderet, and you have many different that they say, En Bishul Achar Bishul applies everything. everything that is cooked is applied. Now, this opinion would be very nice, but the problem is that it's not accepted to the halacha. So we don't use Rashba in Iran. Only Yemenites use their opinion completely, and Yemenites, therefore, if you go to a Yemenite house, they will heat up liquids, everything that is what made before Shabbat, because they follow Rambam in everything, according to the Yemenite tradition. But this is not what we follow, and this is where you continue. Yes, yes.
So can I? So if I go to a Yemenite's house on Shabbos, wouldn't it be rude to say, "Oh, sorry, I'm Ashkenazi, so I don't do this," or do I follow them, or do I stick to the Ashkenazi?
Very good question. You're allowed to follow them because they are allowed to do it. Because it's something that is a debate, then you're not allowed to do it because we talk about the heating. But if someone did it, someone that for him it's allowed, then there's no problem eating it. He did it, and he did something that was allowed for him. The food itself is not considered now something that went through something that is not allowed. So you're allowed to eat in a Yemenite house and eat anything that they serve. But if you invite the Yemenite to you and you say, great, I have a Yemenite, then I can serve a soup for lunch, and I can ask him to put it, that is not allowed, because asking him to do it for you is just not doing it. So only if he does it for himself at home, then it's fine, but not that every Yemenite can be like our Shabbos goy for heating it. Okay, so it's a very good example of how it's when it's allowed for him, you're allowed to do it when the way it's cooked. Other things will not be. Not because if they eat something that Ashkenazi don't eat, you are not allowed to eat it because you're not a guest. I don't know, for example, kitniot in Pesach. But considering the work that is done, because it's a debate, it's a machloket, then it's no problem to eating it when they serve it. So it's a good example. Yes.
Can I ask a follow-up question?
Yes.
Because the more you study, the more Jews find you a little bit annoying, right? It's like the more you know, the more normal Jews get and I kind of want these Shabbos invites, right? So where does the line goes between being a know-it-all and somebody who tries to follow things?
As they said in the beginning, there's one thing is studying the principle where it comes from, and the other one is the practical. The practical is not that difficult. When you come to the annoying part, I think my wife will agree with you completely. I won't. It's annoying is a matter of your taste and your feeling. What is annoying and what is not? I can't answer on that behalf. So as I said, it depends who you ask. These details go much, much, much more. Everything we learn here is every one, like what I covered, Chom Shiyad Soledet, which I finished in like 10 minutes, is something that you take, I don't know, a month and a half to study in the yeshiva, covering all the aspects and the source and the way that interpret it. So it's like the details are much, much more. When I say month and a half, it's not month and a half once a week. A month and a half of daily studies the whole day. So it's like these details are extremely long. We here touch the very offload, how to say no. I don't have the word in English. Sorry.
Surface.
The surface. Yes, thank you. Like we touch the surface. Sometimes we touch a bit under the surface, but there's much more. if you find it completely annoying, then definitely Judaism is the wrong religion for you.
Yeah, I think annoying is a wrong word, because sometimes trying to get a message across very quickly, you choose the wrong word. But I
No,
think
no,
it's
Silke, it's
more
great. I loved it.
okay.
No,
It's
no,
more like
don't
keeping
consider
the
it wrong.
peace, because I think like
Huh?
my sister is a vegan, and she sticks to it. She's like, if it has touched the plate, if meat has touched the plate, she doesn't touch the plate. She makes my life super easy, right? But like sometimes there's like you come home to someone and I got an invite for Shabbat dinner, success, right? But then you're like, if people on people on different levels, so it's like, where do I
Yes.
do I just not ask? Because I kind of just want to
Silke,
not
you
ask.
actually talk about now the most complicated thing we have, but this is the go out of the topic. But the hardest thing that we have today, that most of the people, most of the Jews in there don't keep these rules, and when the thing they do is not allowed, like with the heating and other things, then you're not allowed to. You can't eat there for Shabbat, like unless in advance you talked about what is going to be served, and then yes, it should be a cold. Like you can have a great cold meal, but these things need to be prepared in advance, and that it's hard. Yes, Rebecca.
I just, as I understand it, like assuming somebody keeps kosher, you know that they keep kosher, and the way that they keep kosher at home is supposed to be accepted. As in, like, if you come as a guest, you're not supposed to question the Jews' way of
Yes.
keeping kosher.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that goes completely off topic, but it's but because we already opened it, I'll try to quickly finish it. In principle, yes, unless you find out that it's an issue. I went to a place where they said they keep Shabbat and keep kosher. And I knew them as people who keep Shabbat. But then I came in home and I saw that they heat the food on a regular stove, induction, and that's a problem. It was not cool by me to not be prepared for that. Like maybe I needed to question. Well, I can't say how to react in the situation when you come to it, but people might say, and the reality will be different. I would say trust them unless they prove you wrong, but give them the benefit of the doubt until they prove, and until you see that there are things that they do that are completely not allowed, and then you'll need to find out what you do with that at that point. But in principle, yes, you agree. Yes, Lars?
Yes, I wonder, just to combine these principles. I have something that I don't understand. When I was in Italy on a kosher hotel, it was actually, I think it was managed by Chabad. I don't know, but it was pretty hardcore. And they have this Shabbat dinner in the restaurant, and they served entrecote, and they asked, "Do you want it rare, medium, or well done?" How could they make something? Did they have this three already prepared? How could they? How can they? Because is that possible actually to?
It sounds weird.
Yeah,
no
but
idea.
I thought also it was weird.
I can't really answer because that sounds really weird.
It must be, but because it was a pretty big. I mean, it was like 100 people for
No,
Shabbat dinner.
I can give you an example. If we did have the same at home. In the time that we used to eat meat, that a roast beef, if you make a roast, then many times you have like the parts of the roast that are like in the ends that are more well done, and then in the middle that is more red. And there are people who prefer this and people who prefer that. And maybe that was the like, do you want the parts that are bleeding or the parts that are so maybe it was something like that. I don't know, but that's But of course, making it won't be is not possible. Okay, let's
No.
finish here because we stopped in the middle of the fluid aspects. Yes, Silke, you were so good, so you can continue. However,
according to Rashi, Rosh, Schmack, and Smack, the principle of Ein Bishul, Aha Bishul applies to only.
I'll stop you just for a second. The reason that they mention these things, and I know that for you it's almost Chinese. Some of you might know Rashi. Rosh is like really for hardcore, and Smack it's where like people who really studied well that know Sefer Mitzvot Gadol, Sefer Mitzvot Katan. Why is it even though important? Because when he brings Rashi, Rosh, Smag, and Smak, and here he brings Ran, Rambam, and Rashba, it's because these are two groups of Rishonim, of rabbis before the Shulchan Aruch. It means that their opinions value a bit higher in a way that they're considered important. So you have like these schools, and they tell you can see how balanced it is. So many important rabbis from before Shulchan Aruch said the one, and so many important rabbis from before Shulchan Aruch said the other one. So that's why they bring these names, and it's important to like understand why it comes from, not because it's crucial to that you follow, that you remember every one of the names, but more because of the why. I'm telling this to why did they bring it. Yes, continue.
Liquids, on the other hand, even if they may have been fully cooked, may not be reheated once they have cooled off, and doing so, it is considered bishul. It is because when it comes to solid foods, the primary purpose of cooking them is to create the cooked or baked taste. Once bread is baked, the difference between eating it hot or cold is significant. The same is true of fish and potatoes. It makes little difference whether they are served hot or cold. Therefore, from the moment that these foods acquired a cooked or baked taste, their cooking is considered complete. Accordingly, even if they have cooled off, one may reheat them because cooking no longer affects them significantly. But for liquids, their temperature is an integral part of defining them as cooked. There is a fundamental difference between cold soup and hot soup, and the same is true of tea and coffee as well. Therefore, for liquids, we say yes bishul, aha bishul. There is a prohibition of cooking something that has already been cooked. Thus, if a liquid has cooled, can you go up a little bit?
Yes.
Cooled down, one who reheats it to yad, so let it go, transgresses the Torah prohibition of cooking.
Yeah. Bottom line, don't cook, don't heat things that are fluid, that maintains the soup. Here comes, for example, what Rebecca asked before about the stew. That's why I said it's a bit more complicated, because a stew is it a soup that is completely fluid, or is it like when you come, for example, to goulash? Will goulash be considered as fluid or as? And here there's so one is the question of how much does it change the texture of the food, and there are opinions here that you could say that if the majority of what you put, if the majority of the parts are not fluid, then you can heat it. And some would say no, as soon as there's a bit of I don't know, even if the chicken has some you know, the I don't know how it's called, like usually the fluids that when you cook a chicken, then there are things that becomes a bit hard. How is it? No, what's the name of it? I lost all my English today, but yeah, that's like a kind of jello thing that you have on the.
You mean the bouillon? The bouillon?
You mean like the stock?
It's the thing that you put in the water that becomes
no,
like
not the bouillon.
no?
When you
Not
make
the
when you make a chicken, you
think it's the
have some
stock.
kind of a jello, right? In the
Yeah,
end sometimes.
It's like the natural stock that comes from the chicken.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So some will say you're not even that you're not allowed to put on the platter because this will turn into fluid afterwards. This seal of the, how do you say seal? The gravy. It's and anyway that at my parents, if there was a bit of fluid, it didn't come on the platter at all. Like if so we only it was always very dry. Like we put schnitzel, we put buekas, but a very very dry foods went on the. Then later I saw opinions that are more open to say if the majority, if the rov is not fluid, then it's not considered a fluid thing dish. You have a different opinion here. I'm not going to decide for you, but the principle is what you saw here. Yes. Yeah.
I have a
the thought
question.
for this is from Shulchan Aruch, so I won't read it now. Now we'll come to this. I don't have the time anymore. I have to go through Kli Sheni. So we'll do that next time. Unfortunately, we were supposed to finish it today. You asked too many good questions. It's a problem. It's a good problem. So we'll continue next time with the Kli Sheni and then to other aspects. Have a great Sunday. Shavua Tov. We will. Vinsky wants to say something.
I asked you something on the chat. Can you check it out? In the chat. Can you?
Yeah, kosher kitchen. You'll take that one. We'll discuss kosher. That's a huge question that will. Yeah.
Can we almost have a session for this stuff? Because this stuff is super hard to navigate.
Yes.
I know I can
right.
be a good Jew and like sit at home with my 2 candles and just like want to shoot myself in the head in with like 3 lights on. But like, how do you navigate this? Can we have it like almost a full discussion of this?
Yes.
Because I'd like also to have a full life with people.
Yes, but we'll take this when we come to. Well, I'll find a time for it.
Okay, thank you.
Good.
Tack. Hej då.
Shabbat tov.
Hey.
Shabbat tov.
Shabbat tov. Toda.
Shabbat tov.
Shabbat tov.